of new writers that that's something that they can tend to resist, that they get caught up in the thrill of the first draft. Could you talk to us just a little bit, each of you, about your process, how you got started and with these books and how you re-envisioned it? And also if there was something dramatic that changed, like for example, perhaps originally, Heather was writing not about vampires, but about elves. Anything like that. Your revision process.
I will say, as far as revision goes, I used to, I would feel like if I wrote something and it wasn't good, then I'd wasted my time. And so I would probably still be working on this book if it weren't for NaNoWriMo. I don't know if any of you do NaNoWriMo. I did NaNoWriMo in college. It's awesome. And up until then, I had been working on this one book that I started in high school, and I had been working on it for like 6 years, and it wasn't a good book. Like, it wasn't good, but I felt like if I just said, oh, this book isn't good, I need to move on, then I had wasted all that time. Or what I've realized now is they're just words. Like, you can delete them, you can move them around. We are not playing with like cardiac surgery here, okay? No one's gonna die if you're like, oh, that chapter really sucks, delete. Like, it's okay. And so I think that you have to be unafraid to revise and unafraid to say, like, this is not very good right now. I'm going to have to delete 70,000 words, delete. It's just words.
I have a really hard time hitting delete. So you know what I do? I copy it, paste it into a new file, and then I never see it again. Because really, in the end, you've got to delete. Absolutely, Jackson's totally right.
There's so many good adages, like you're a writer when you do delete that favorite sentence that you're just in love with, but sometimes it just doesn't serve the book, it doesn't further the plot, it has no point being there. You have to let it go. Basically, as a writer, in writing on that Alpha Smart where I only see 4 lines at one time, it's giving myself permission to write garbage. Like, my first draft of anything is not publishable. There's nothing about it. It needs work. It needs a lot of work. But I write the first draft, I push forward, I don't look back, and I have fun. I enjoy that, and I give myself permission to say, oh, that's going to need a lot of work. But okay, keep going. Next scene.
I think when I was in school, I was the girl, I wrote the paper and I didn't even like proofread it for mistakes and send it in. I think it wasn't until like my master's thesis that I actually reread something after I wrote it. My problem is that like the process of writing is so, like physically writing it is so painful because up until that point and you're in that brainstorming stage and it's like, I call it the honeymoon phase where you're like in love, oh, it's gonna be this and they're gonna do this and they're gonna be love triangle and like all these amazing things and it's perfect in your head. And then the moment you start writing it, then the flaws show up because, as a writer, you're not perfect. You're always trying to improve. And so I've had to like get myself past the point about worrying about those flaws, like everyone else is saying, you have to get through it and you can fix it later, but until you get through it and to the end, you don't know what you have to fix. So like revision is kind of my carrot. Like, okay, if I get through this crappy first draft, then I get to revise it and make it better.
For me, it's always strange because I love the first draft. It's like when it's totally pure, I'm just lost in the world I'm creating. I don't want to do anything but write, and I do crazy things like while I'm in the middle of the first draft, I'm so lost in the story that I will pour orange juice on my cereal. I will throw away my clothes instead of putting them in the laundry hamper. I mean, these are all things that have really happened to me and it's always in that magical first draft stage. And it's really good because I produce really quickly when I'm doing that. So for me, the editing is much harder because that's when I have to actually break myself out of the world and gain that critical eye. And that's very challenging, and that's why I love my editor so very, very, very much, because she can help me with that process that's really hard for me.